Alan Mendelsohn, The Boy from Mars by Daniel Pinkwater. Chapters 25 and 26. Chapter 25. I was getting sort of angry at Dr. Prince. When I had told him all about hyperstellar archaeology and Lemurian mind control methods, he thought it was fantasy. Now, Samuel Klugarsh, who, by his own admission, couldn't even attain State 26, was telling him the same stuff, and Dr. Prince was listening politely. Just because Samuel Klugarsh was an adult. It bugged me. And of greatest importance, Samuel Klugarsh was saying, is Yojimbo's Japanese-English dictionary, which is actually a secret key to... tell Dr. Prince what Yojimbo's Japanese-English dictionary is a secret key to, lads. Alan Mendelsohn took up the story. You see, Yojimbo's Japanese-English dictionary was compiled by Clarence Yojimbo, who was not really Japanese but a Venusian who had lived a long time in Lemuria. If you read the book backwards, counting only the second word in English in each entry, it makes a book of instructions in ancient Lemurian mind control methods. And what are those? Dr. Prince asked. Well, it tells you how to control people and then objects with your thoughts. That's as far as Leonard and I have gotten. We're learning to move objects by mental commands. That's what Lemurian mind control is all about. That is utter nonsense, someone said. It was the biker, the motorcycle guy who had been listening during our whole conversation. In fact, he said, I've never heard anyone get anything so utterly turned around. You're as wrong as you can be. Samuel Klugarsh turned in his chair. And what do you know of such matters, you ruffian? I know a great deal about such matters, the biker said. In fact, I probably know more about these things than any person alive. Sir, said Samuel Klugarsh, you evidently do not know to whom you are speaking. I have devoted half my life to the study of the lost and obscure arts and sciences. The civilizations of the vanished continents, Mu, Atlantis, Lemuria, Waka Waka, and so forth. And especially the study of hitherto concealed and unknown powers of the mind. My name is Professor Samuel Klugarsh. And my name, said the motorcyclist, is Clarence Yojimbo. There was a silence. Alan Mendelsohn and I stared at the biker. There was something strange about his appearance. It was nothing obvious, but somehow he didn't look like anyone we had ever seen before. His hair and skin were almost the same color, a sort of bronze color. He was very big, and there was something strange about his eyes. It was hard to pin down. He looked like an ordinary person, and he didn't. You'll have to prove that to me, Samuel Klugarsh finally said. You have $16.42 in your pocket, the biker said. Your underwear is blue with white stripes. There's a hole in your left sock at the toe. In your refrigerator at home, there are 6 slices of garden variety pizza, which you intend to eat cold before you go to bed. The book you are reading every night in bed is called Confessions of a Yugoslavian Streetcar Conductor. You have gotten up to page 42. Tomorrow morning, you plan to open your shop late because you have to stop by the Motor Vehicle Bureau and pay a traffic fine for a ticket you got last April when you double parked outside a donut shop. You own a cat named Willie who happens to have 4 ears. You found him in an alley in Durham, North Carolina, but you tell people he's a Martian space cat. Is any of this information incorrect? Samuel Klugarsh really looked astounded. "No," he stammered. "Every word you've said is absolutely correct." "And have you ever seen me before in your life?" the biker asked. "Never," Samuel Klugarsh said. The biker bowed from his chair to the Knights of Power Motorcycle Club, who had been listening to this whole exchange. The bikers burst into applause, whistling and cheering. Clarence Yojimbo gestured for them to stop. "Thank you, gentlemen, thank you." "Wait a minute," Dr. Prince said. "All you have proven is that you are a remarkable mind reader. Not that I doubt your word. If you say you're Clarence Yojimbo, I have no reason to doubt you, but surprising as your mental feats may be, they don't prove you are who you say you are." "A reasonable objection," Clarence Yojimbo said. "I will now put your doubts completely to rest." He pointed to the pocket of his motorcycle jacket. Spelled out in little metal studs was the name Clarence. "Bravo! Bravo!" shouted the Knights of Power. "And now," Clarence Yojimbo said, and with a flourish pulled out and flipped open his wallet. In a little plastic window was a driver's license. "Note the name," he said, and passed the open wallet around. The license was made out in the name of Clarence Yojimbo. "Brilliant! Brilliant!" said the motorcycle club. "But are you the Clarence Yojimbo? The one we've been reading about?" Alan Mendelsohn asked. "I am that most excellent person," Clarence Yojimbo said. Then you're a Venusian," I said. "Not so loud, not so loud," Clarence Yojimbo said. "That's not something to shout about in a public restaurant." "Shh," said the motorcycle club. "Ordinarily, I'd never reveal myself like this," Clarence Yojimbo said. "The only reason I'm doing so is that I couldn't help overhearing your conversation. And you people have got everything so badly mixed up that I really had to take charge of the situation before you get into serious trouble. Besides, I've known that I was going to have to deal with these two boys since the old days in Lemuria." "That's right," Alan Mendelsohn said. "The book said that ancient Lemurian sages predicted that Leonard and I were going to read about their deeds." "Read about them, and a good deal more," Clarence Yojimbo said. "But for now, let me clear up a few things. First of all, I will introduce my companions." He gestured to the motorcyclists who had turned their attention to their bowls of Green Death chili again. "These good men are the last surviving members of the ancient order of the Laughing Alligator. For the past few thousand years, that brotherhood has guarded the extraterrestrial secrets which all of you seem so interested in. These last surviving brothers, none of them under 800 years old, have been my constant companions and friends for the past few centuries." The Laughing Alligator brothers looked up from their chili and winked at us. "Now, let's correct a few things," Clarence Yojimbo said. "Professor Klugarsh, the hyperstellar archaeology course was sold to you by an individual named Rodney Rubenstein. Am I not correct?" "Oh, well, yes," Samuel Klugarsh said. "Ordinarily I do my own research, but in this case..." At this point, it suddenly started to sink in that we were sitting around talking to a Venusian. I felt the hair on the back of my neck stand up. My skin felt all tingly. I guess the Bermuda Triangle chili parlor, the Green Death chili, and everything were so unfamiliar that the addition of a supposed Venusian didn't really stand out as something exceptional right away. It seemed that the situation had crept up on everyone in the same way. because Dr. Prince was listening quietly, smoking his pipe, while Samuel Klugarsh and Clarence Yojimbo talked. Alan Mendelsohn was looking a little pale, but I couldn't tell if it was the combination of the regular chili and the second half of the cigar he had started before the meal, or if the fact of Clarence Yojimbo's otherworldliness had finally hit him. "You see," Clarence Yojimbo was saying, "Rodney Rubenstein is perhaps one of the most annoying investigators of extraterrestrial phenomena, along with Eric von Dankney, who was just as bad. These fellows have almost the right idea, but they go about it all wrong. Rodney Rubenstein has the awful habit of tinkering around with the material he gets a hold of in order to make his arguments more convincing. What he did to my dictionary is just a shame." "You mean that what these boys told me is false?" Samuel Klugarsh asked. "Do you mean that you cannot, by reading Yojimbo's Japanese-English dictionary backwards, noting only the second word in English in each entry, discover the ancient thought control methods of old Lemuria?" "Of course you can," said Clarence Yojimbo. "And if you multiply the area of the base of the Great Pyramid of Cheops by your grandmother's height in centimeters and add to and take away today's market price of chopped liver, you'll get either pi or the distance from Earth to the sun. I forget which. It doesn't prove a thing. You can't use Earth methods to solve unearthly problems. It's like trying to fix an automobile engine by giving it an aspirin, although there are some rare cases where that will work. Anyway, you see what I mean." "I see what's happening," Dr. Prince said. It's about time, I thought. Dr. Prince was staring at the steamy window. He had a funny expression, sort of a bitter smile. "I've lost my mind. It's strange that I didn't notice it coming on. Here I am, smoking my pipe and listening to a fellow have a conversation with a Venusian motorcyclist, just as though it were the most natural thing in the world. Here I am, sitting in a place where I've just eaten something called green death chili with one of my patients who has classic paranoid fantasies, and I'm just going along with the whole thing as if it were all true. It even makes sense to me. I'm a very sick man." It was obvious that Dr. Prince wasn't talking to any of us. He was just staring at the window, out of which you couldn't see a thing, and babbling on. "I assure you, you're imagining none of this," Clarence Yojimbo said. "Why should I believe you?" Dr. Prince said. "You're a figment of the imagination. You're not even a figment of my imagination. You're a figment of Leonard's imagination. Why should I believe a figment?" Dr. Prince was starting to cry. "I think our colleague is a little upset," Samuel Klugarsh said. "I agree," said Clarence Yojimbo. "Perhaps we should bring this evening's discussion to an end. I'll see to it that Dr. Prince gets home all right, and I'll administer a Lemurian substance that will cause him to forget everything he's heard. We can meet again at your shop tomorrow. There are some things we really have to clear up." The brothers of the Laughing Alligator escorted Dr. Prince, who kept saying, "Crazy as a coot! Crazy as a coot!" out of the Bermuda Triangle chili parlor. They hoisted him onto a motorcycle and roared off into the darkness. Samuel Klugarsh arranged with Alan Mendelsohn and me to meet at his bookshop the following day, right after school. Alan Mendelsohn and I walked back to the bus station. We didn't say much. Seeing Dr. Prince go nuts was a little upsetting for both of us. We were in luck. A bus for West Kangaroo Park was just about to leave. It was getting pretty late, and we were afraid that our parents might have telephoned each other and discovered we were missing. As it turned out, we got back just in time. Both mothers said that they were just about to telephone. I had a hard time getting to sleep that night. I kept going over the things that had happened in the Bermuda Triangle chili parlor. In the morning, I got a telephone call from Dr. Prince before I left for school. "Leonard, I just wanted to let you know that I won't be able to meet with you next week," he said. "Is anything wrong?" I asked. No, nothing is wrong. I just want to take some time off. I'm going to visit my sister in Lemuria. Bermuda. San Diego. I've been working too hard and I need a rest." "Have a nice trip, Dr. Prince," I said. "Waka waka," Dr. Prince said. Chapter 26. We were the first kids out of Bat Masterson Junior High School when the bell rang. The bus rolled up and we got on. We half walked, half trotted from the bus station to Samuel Klugarsh's bookshop. The Laughing Alligator motorcycles were parked outside. In the front part of the shop, the brothers of the Laughing Alligator were leafing through the books and giggling. They winked and nodded to us as we came in. In the back of the shop, Samuel Klugarsh and Clarence Yojimbo were sitting on folding chairs. They were drinking hot chocolate with double marshmallows and whipped cream from paper containers. Apparently, they had sent out to the Bermuda Triangle chili parlor. "Ah, there you are, boys," Samuel Klugarsh said. "Clarence Yojimbo has only been here a little while. Your hot chocolate is still hot, although I'm afraid the marshmallows have completely melted by this time." He offered us 2 of the cardboard containers. I noticed that the cover was off the Test Your Brain Power machine. Apparently, Samuel Klugarsh had been testing Clarence Yojimbo's brain power before we arrived. The tube in which the red liquid rose to show you how advanced you were had melted, and the red stuff had dribbled all over the front of the machine. The file cabinet drawers were open, and Samuel Klugarsh's mimeographed courses were all over the place. Also, the old-time radios and other scientific equipment looked as though they had been given a workout. Samuel Klugarsh's polka dot bow tie was crooked, and he had spilled some hot chocolate on his pink shirt. "We've been going over some of Mr. Klugarsh's research and educational material," Clarence Yojimbo said. "I was able to point out quite a few things that will have to be corrected immediately. Isn't that right, Sam?" "Absolutely. Yes, sir. This very day, sir," Samuel Klugarsh said. "Can I run out and get you some more hot chocolate? A cheeseburger? The contents of my savings account? Havana cigars?" "Thank you," Clarence Yojimbo said. "I don't require anything at this time. Why don't you just take a chair and rest? I have to discuss a few things with Alan and Leonard." "Yes, sir. Thank you. I'll sit down now. Thank you," Samuel Klugarsh said. He seemed to be trying very hard to be extra polite to Clarence Yojimbo. "Now, boys, let me bring you up to date. It seems that our friend Mr. Klugarsh has made somewhat the same error as that of Rodney Rubenstein and other psychic and extraterrestrial scholars. He's become aware of certain things, but doesn't understand their use and significance. It's a little like this. Suppose there is no such thing as an automobile, and you came upon a good-as-new 1961 Studebaker Lark, all gassed up and ready to go. You'd call everybody to come and marvel at your discovery. But instead of realizing that it was a machine which had the power to carry people from place to place, suppose you and everyone else thought that the purpose of a 1961 Studebaker Lark was to sit in the front seat and play the radio. You'd have pretty much missed the point, don't you agree?" "Sure," we said. "Thank you for referring to me as your friend," Samuel Klugarsh said. "Well, this is what has happened to students of strange phenomena," Clarence Yojimbo said. Eric von Dankeny somehow guessed that persons from other planets have been visiting the Earth for many thousands of years. But then he mixes us up with pyramids and cave paintings and, of all things, the history of religion. Utter nonsense. And Rodney Rubenstein seems to have found out that in some places, large rocks and so forth can be moved by mental power. And he makes the assumption that this is something that Earth people should be able to do as well. Then he goes ahead and doctors certain books like my dictionary to support his ideas. All very shocking. Shocking, Samuel Klugarsh said. And our friend Mr. Klugarsh, thank you, said Samuel Klugarsh, packages the stuff and sells it to people, believing, of course, that he is doing nothing wrong. I swear, said Samuel Klugarsh. But you see, it is very wrong. It would only be foolish to discover a brand new 1961 Studebaker Lark and mistake it for a machine for listening to the radio. But to encourage people to do mind control stunts is much more than foolish. It is very dangerous. Dangerous, said Samuel Klugarsh. Now, you boys, you listen to Mr. Yojimbo. But we didn't do anything evil, Alan Mendelsohn said. That's right, I said. We were just having fun. We wouldn't have used our powers to hurt anyone. Except yourselves, Clarence Yojimbo said. If you got the idea that all these powers were good for was tricks, then you'd be limited forever from ever finding out what their real uses were. You'd end up like... He looked at Samuel Klugarsh. Like Rodney Rubenstein. Mr. Yojimbo, is that chair comfortable? Samuel Klugarsh asked. I have a nice easy chair at home. I could get it. I'm fine just like this, Clarence Yojimbo said. Now I want to explain everything to these boys. You see, you are the first people, regular Earth people, ever to attain what Mr. Klugarsh calls State 26 at will. Other people have attained it, but only at certain moments and by accident. Somehow, from Klugarsh's moronic instructions, you've learned how to turn it on and off like a light switch. Now, while it's perfectly true that a person in State 26 can, to some extent, transmit his thoughts and get people and even objects to do his bidding, that's not really what State 26 is good for. The point of State 26 is not to make yourself into a radio transmitter, but to make yourself into a radio receiver. In other words, instead of trying to put out messages, you should be picking them up. It's much more useful and much more interesting. Well, we had sort of begun to get bored with giving people commands, Alan Mendelsohn said. That's when we got into levitating bricks and such, I put in. And you would have gotten bored with levitating bricks and even whole houses soon, Clarence Yojimbo said. Some people never get bored with stupid games, but usually when a person gets to be able to do something pointless like transmit his thoughts, he soon realizes just how dull it is. Now, tell me the truth. Except for some boorish mischief, can you think of any good use for sending mental commands? We couldn't. But what about moving objects by mental power? I asked. That could be useful for putting up buildings and things like that, couldn't it? Why do you suppose we were given hands and brains that can figure out how to do things? The Venusian said. You know, there are people who believe that the pyramids and the Easter Island statues were erected by some kind of magic power that the ancient people learned from extraterrestrials. The reason they think this is because it hurts their pride that they can't figure out how it was done. They don't want to believe that some ancient Easter Islander knew as much about engineering as they do. But none of that stuff about spacemen building the great monuments of the ancient world is true. All those things were done by humans using their human gifts, including, but not depending on, moments of inspiration or intuition or State 26, as Sam here calls it. Now I want to explain about Mu and Atlantis and Lemuria and Napsulia and Waka Waka, all those lost continents. This is going to be a little tricky to understand, so feel free to ask questions as I go along. None of them were ever lost. You mean none of them ever existed? I asked. All of them existed, and still do. They aren't exactly continents, but they exist. Oh, they're not called Waka Waka or Atlantis. Those are just made-up names for them. But they're real. Where are they? Alan Mendelsohn asked. Here, Clarence Yojimbo said. Right here. He was right. It was tricky to understand, and we said so. I'll explain. Maybe you've read about excavations of ancient cities like Troy. After the archaeologists dig down and find the ancient city, sometimes they find that there's still another, more ancient city underneath. Then they find that there's another city underneath that one, even more ancient. They find layers, levels. The so-called lost continents or lost societies are a little like that. Do you mean if we dug straight down, we'd find Atlantis? Alan Mendelsohn asked. If you dug straight down, you'd find the Hogborough Municipal Sewer, Clarence Yojimbo said. To find Atlantis, you have to dig straight down within yourself. So Atlantis exists in our imagination? Our memory? I asked. If you like, Clarence Yojimbo said. I prefer to believe that it exists outside us, but we can only find it by going inside. I'm getting confused, Alan Mendelsohn said. So am I said. I've been confused since last night, Samuel Klugar said. How about we break for a snack? I can run around the corner for some frozen yogurt for us and the Laughing Alligator brothers. By the way, how are they doing out there? We peeked into the front of the store. The brothers of the Laughing Alligator were taking turns reading a Scientology book to each other and cracking up laughing. Reynolds and Hamilton will go with you to help bring back the yogurt, Clarence Yojimbo said. It's a good idea. I'm getting dry from all this talking. So ends chapter 26, Alan Mendelsohn, the boy from Mars.